Okay. I know what you guys are thinking. Why are we back?
And the truth is, we're back because voting matters.
We are 24 hours away from the most important election of our time. And we just really wanted to lay it out for some of our procrastinating voters.
Very true.
Reluctant voters. Voters that don't even see themselves as voters. We just really wanted to lay out why, as young people, it's important for us to vote, how easy it is to vote, and we're not just going to be like those apps like Instagram, Snapchat.
We're not just going to sit here and tell you and force you to go vote. But however, this episode is about providing information on both sides, both the Biden side and the Trump side, because we don't know who's going to get elected, but whoever gets elected, we want to make sure you guys are informed on their policies that will be set into place during their presidency.
And it's just so important to, after getting this information, it's on you to do what you want with it.
And we take it upon us as young adults to be the ones to inform more young adults about reasons why it's important to vote and what will happen once you cast your ballot, what will happen afterwards. We just want you guys to be informed about what is about to happen.
And this episode this is not the news.
This is not the news.
So it's
purely on information, and then we'll give our opinions coming from us as young black males in America and also as young adults in America.
And as young adults, maybe we don't care that much about
taxes,
the tax plan or what specific things would do for the economy. It's as much as we can say that we care about them, they don't have as much of an
impact on our lives currently as things like our education or the prison policy or
climate change. Like the issues that we're going to speak on today and the policy stances that we're going to speak on today are things that we feel as young people are key to our existence.
Essentials. So, you know what it is? We are the voices of tomorrow.
The voices of the unheard.
LA's finest.
My name is Christophe.
My name is Amiri.
And you are listening to the New Knowledge Podcast. So, getting straight into it. By now, you've heard it all. All the stuff on the news. All the stuff from the debates. All the stuff on social media.
Celebrities, politicians.
Hey, this is the election.
Very important.
It's no other way around it. This is the election. The presidential election, the local election. This is 2020. If it's taught you anything, this is the year for first.
This is your year where your voice matters.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, as we're getting into this voting episode, we really wanted to stress at the beginning that your vote is yours.
Is yours.
Yours singularly. It's yours.
You're not an extension of any other person. You're not an extension of your mom. You're not an extension of your dad's vote. This is your vote. This is your opinion on the policies that are being that can be potentially set in place in the future.
In the past couple weeks, we've seen idols and rappers like 50 Cent or Lil Wayne, or not so much an idol, but Lil Pump. Pretty much these figureheads in our society or hip hop culture, or even just in society, putting out who they're voting for.
Or taking pictures with who they are voting for.
I saw this one thing on Twitter, and it was like Trump poses with black people like those guys that catch fish. Like they got the big fish, like they all stand there like. But that's besides the point.
That's besides the point.
But so, just to keep in mind that these celebrities and influencers, just like you are supposed to be doing, they're voting with their self-interest.
Yeah. With what benefits them. However, we have to understand that we are not in the same... We're not living the same lifestyle. These celebrities are in the 5% of people who make over $400,000.
Way more than that.
Way more than
that. The top 0.1%.
We're talking about once you start getting into the higher end, like wealthy part of society, right? Money, So it's as much as it's easy to be like, oh my God, Lil Wayne is supporting Trump. Well, let me reconsider who I support. Now, we're not telling you to not support one person. We're not telling you to support another. But we do want to inform you that just because a celebrity is behind or backing a certain politician, just understand that's an endorsement and that's out of their self-interest. And for those celebrities right now, it has to do with money. Yep. They're supporting Trump because they'll be affected by by Biden's tax cut. Right? So that's a prime example of how we just want to let you know that your voice is your voice. It's not Wayne's voice. It's not 50 Cent's voice. It's not me or Christophe's voice.
Not at all.
It's your voice.
You align yourself with particular things that matter most to you and vote in that interest.
Yes.
Whether that's for a particular party or not. Like, don't let... I mean, George Washington, when he first was president, his biggest thing was do not create political parties.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up in some stuff that we're in right now. Like,
where you're no longer a multi-dimensional thinker. You have to be so two-dimensional, and it could blind you to what's really important.
Yeah. Like, you can lean
to you.
You can lean one way, but still like what the other party.
New Knowledge Podcast quote. All right, you can lean left, look right, or you can lean right and look left. But you always have to be aware of everything.
You have to.
All right.
And when you're doing that, it makes it so much easier for things to get done.
Yes.
If our politicians really did act in the interest of the people, things would be so much easier without political parties.
Yes.
But that's to say, whether you align yourself with a political party or not, because most of your values fit that, don't count out looking at another party.
Yeah.
Don't count out looking at another politician who might fit you better than the so-called party that's supposed to represent you. So,
but with that being said, this election is Democratic versus Republican. This election is Trump versus Biden.
Yep.
And so we want to get into both sides. We want to inform you about Trump, the policies Trump's about to put into place, or is going to continue to put in place during his presidency.
Yep.
Say he gets another 4 years, and what Biden will put into place with Kamala Harris within his 4 years if he gets elected as president.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're cutting the BS. We're getting straight to it.
Right. We're informing you. We want to become a source you can come back to refer to information about just voting in the election and just the policies in general. Because some of you may feel as if it's too late to vote, and it's not. I voted today. It is so easy.
I haven't voted yet.
I registered and voted at the polls within 20 minutes. So understand that you can still vote. When this airs, you will have 24 hours to vote. Please go ahead and at least attempt to vote. Yeah. And if not, watch this episode, continue to do your research, and learn about the policies that are about to be set into place as we go along in the future.
Because it's your civic duty as part of this society. So, I mean, as much as you have to vote, you don't have to vote, but
you should.
It's in your best interest. If you want to be a playing role in this society, that's how you make your mark.
Yeah.
Because even though you can say so much about change doesn't happen without putting the right people in office.
The right actions.
Yeah, having the right actions. So this is the collection of our voices are what drives different changes in this world.
Yes.
So,
with that being said, we are about to dive into the policies of both Trump and Biden. I'll read off Trump's side, Christophe will read off Biden's side, and then we'll go into how it affects society.
And first and foremost, for some of you guys that haven't even gotten into politics yet.
Yeah.
Some people...
This could be a nice intro.
Yeah, a nice intro to politics.
Intro to politics.
So, there's one thing that politics is like football. It's rough. Gets nasty. But you're playing to win. Both sides are playing to win. And you're trying to get to the end zone. A lot of times, you don't get there. But you end up in a better place. Maybe you have to dink and dunk. Maybe kick a field goal. Maybe you can't throw a Hail Mary every time.
Yeah.
On either side. So there's this thing of compromise. But a lot of times now, we forget that we're actually on the same team.
Yeah.
Trying to do better.
Yeah.
But...
which is just one way of doing better compared to the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's all about compromise.
Yes.
And this whole thing of Democrats versus Republicans. Here's a way that this was taught to me in my economics class. The Democrats are left-leaning. Republicans, right-leaning. These are two different ideologies. The right way of thinking in like an economic sense is more like a free market, which means companies, corporations have zero regulations and restrictions. All the way, this is far right, super far right, on an economic sense. But I'll tie it into the politics. And then left leaning is there's the government controls all aspects of the economy. This is communism, for those of you that don't know. So, in politics, this right-leaning of less restrictions, this free market versus a government state structured economy. The way that this fits into politics is that the left-leaning says that the government should do more stuff. When the government does everything, that's all the way left. When the government does nothing, that's all the way right. So, in politics, we base this off of how big the government ends up being. If you believe that people and people themselves have more capabilities to do what's right, and you believe in a smaller government, then you lean to the right. If you believe that the government should institute more things to increase the well-being of society, then you lean to the left. But it's all based on how big and how much influence and reach that the government has in our lives.
Yeah.
So that's the left and right. And it's a whole bunch of different stuff when it gets into the specifics of it. But that's how it was explained to me to make it seem a lot easier.
Yeah, and for those of you who think of it as like the philosophical sense of it or whatever, I read that the Republican philosophy leans more towards individual freedoms, rights, and responsibilities. Whereas in contrast, Democrats attach greater importance to equality and social community responsibility. So you can see it now, how it may seem as if Trump is more leaning towards business and Biden is leaning more towards the people, or so to speak, what would benefit society.
Yeah.
On a social level. So we're about to get into it. I hope you guys enjoy. Majority of the information we gathered was released by CBS News, an article that analyzed the policies of Trump was going to release and the policies that Biden was going to release. This research done on CBS News is kind of a compilation of a bunch of research done by other sources.
This means from their respective websites, from independent journalists, from actual documents from the Congress of the laws that are passed. So this is really
and their debates.
Yeah, and so a broad scope of what they say they're running on, what they have ran on, and for Trump being the incumbent, the particular things that he has already done.
Right. This article was released October 23rd, 2020, and we will tag information about the policies and the agreements and everything that we may not go into detail upon because we're just reading one side versus the other. All information will be tagged in our bio.
Yep.
All right. Let's get it started. We're starting with climate change.
So climate change is obviously one of the biggest thing for especially the young generation.
Yeah.
Because we've been taught so much about, because we are in the information age. So I'll first be reading Biden's stance when it comes to climate change. First is to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. I believe he has it in his first 100 days in office. transition the U.S. into 100% clean energy economy by 2035, and by 2050 to be running on no fossil fuels. Invest $2 trillion in sustainable infrastructure. Take action against fossil fuel companies who knowingly harm the environment.
So Donald Trump's side for climate change is that he withdrew us from the Paris Climate Agreement already. He rolled back on some of Obama's regulations for climate protection. He has allowed companies to face fewer penalties for air and water pollution during the coronavirus pandemic. He has signed the Great American Outdoors Act, which will use royalties from offshore oil and gas drilling to maintain national parks.
So in terms of climate change, as both of us believe that it is real.
A climate change
and it's imminent.
We have not been treating the earth with as much care. And so from me and Christophe, as young adults, we think that it is best that we do more to protect our earth and do more to prevent things like oil spills and prevent pollution, high rates of pollution.
Yeah, and, at least from my perspective, well, it's a situation where, let's say we do use all clean energy. Let's say in the scenario that climate change isn't real, if we put all this money into clean energy, better infrastructure, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
So like we're being more efficient regardless of if it's real or not.
We know it's real.
We believe it's. I mean, like 97% of climate change scientists say it's real.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just, and especially as young people, we are gonna grow up in that world where all the predictions of 2050, where it's
and we
non-reversible.
are the generation that affects what comes out in 2050. We are the engineers, right? The politicians, right? The journalists that will document what happens if we don't clean our planet. Mm-hmm. So, that's our point, and that's our stance on climate change.
So now we're on the topic of abortion, a very controversial topic in society today. But two definitions that will bring context to a lot of the disagreements in policy are the Mexico City policy and the Hyde Amendment.
Right. So the Mexico City policy prevents non-governmental organizations from receiving federal funds if they discuss abortion as a family planning option or provide the procedure of abortion.
And the Hyde Amendment bans federal funding of abortion except in cases of rape, incest, or when the pregnancy endangers the patient's life. So Joe Biden's stance on this is to rescind the Mexico City policy and repeal the Hyde Amendment, while also trying to codify Roe v. Wade.
You can look up that in our bio.
Yeah. Do everything to end abortion restrictions mandated by states, because while the federal government has specific things, the rest of it that it doesn't consider is up to the states to decide.
Yeah.
So while the government might have this Roe v. Wade stance based on the Supreme Court ruling, the states can decide on particular specifics that could also infringe on women's reproductive rights. And the last thing is to mandate that states can't refuse Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood or other providers.
So Trump's side of this is he's already reinstated the Mexico City policy. And he has already excluded clinics where abortion is a method of family planning from receiving Title X funding. He has said he is pro-life with exceptions for rape, incest, and saving the life of the patient.
So in terms of our particular views on abortion, it's...
To me, I don't have an opinion. I am pro-choice because I do not feel like I never had a period. I would never get pregnant. I do not feel like this is my issue to discuss, nor do I feel like it is no man should take responsibility over deciding a woman's reproductive rights.
Yeah, I mean, really my thinking is that you can't be pro-choice in a pro-life world, but you can be pro-life in a pro-choice world, because that's part of choosing. You can choose to have it or not. I mean,
pro-choice.
It's your choice.
It's your choice.
And one of the biggest things about this is that so many people define and defend their views based on religion.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of that based on it. It's a sin in the Bible, and these are two God-fearing men, but
God-respecting.
Regardless of that, you can't deny the fact that they created this government and this constitution based on the idea of the separation of church and state. So regardless of how loyal we are to the church, our state it's mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So by trying to define it based on religion, you are already denying that First Amendment right to the freedom of religion.
Yeah. Because
you're trying to influence particular policies and back it up with religion. That's just where I stand on the abortion issue.
I do want to emphasize my point that
we're pro-choice.
We're pro-choice, and I feel like going on in a more progressive society, I do not feel like an issue that has literally to deal with one specific sex revolves, or it can be decided by the opposite gender. I do not feel like males should have any say in this particular thing, and if you do, it should be to support your female counterpart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pro-choice and also pro-prevention. So I'm all for better sexual education in schools, because we know that's
we know that is lacking.
I just feel you do better when you know better.
Yeah.
So you know better, have better access to birth control, those type of things. I think that will drastically cut the abortion rates.
Exactly.
But hey, that's just us. That's just us. And it doesn't particularly apply directly to us. It definitely applies to a lot of young people. And that's why it's so important for not only us, but a lot of our sisters in the community.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Most
definitely. Next topic.
The next topic is one that has really taken over 2020, which is
police and criminal justice reform.
Yeah, one of the biggest things throughout this entire summer, and I think was based on.
I think what has a big pull on the brown and black vote this year too.
Yeah. So Joe Biden's side of it is to eliminate the death penalty, end solitary confinement, end federal use of private prisons, decriminalize marijuana, and automatically expunge people with prior convictions, and invest $1 billion per year in reforming the juvenile justice system.
And Donald Trump's side is to fully fund and hire more law enforcement officers, so to further fund the police, to increase criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers. So he wants to increase the criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers, but also increase the amount of officers that are present in law enforcement. Keep people in jail until a trial and end cashless bail. And this is a quote from him, bring violent extremist groups like Antifa to justice. So he's quick to bring Antifa to justice, but he wants the KKK to stand back and stand by.
Or it was like the Proud Boys or something. I don't know what but definitely this has been a part of our podcast since the beginning.
Since the jump.
Kind of the reason that we ended up making a podcast.
Yeah.
At least on Joe Biden's side, something that I personally think is something that could be great is how many people have gone to jail based on petty drug offenses,
especially during the war.
So you have so many people in jail for something that's legal now in California, and I think that the idea of having more like rehabilitation on these type of drug things,
especially like a juvenile justice system where if you go in young,
because it's sometimes it's like the school to prison pipeline. That's what it is. So that's kind of why I favor the sort of like looking towards the people in terms of the criminal justice, as opposed to looking out for the police.
Yeah, it's trying to get rid of that once a criminal, always a criminal.
Yeah.
Tag.
So I think looking at more of the process of it is something that I personally definitely believe in.
And I misspoke. So he wants to increase criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers. I mistakenly said that he wanted to have more penalties against people, against the assault that police officers cause on people. But in fact, I was wrong. I think I just wanted to read that. What I really meant to say was that he wants to increase the penalties for assaults on those officers, and then increase the amount of officers. So personally, this is where, I know this is more like trying to be broad and opinion based or whatever, but I strongly do not agree with this particular side because family reasons, personal reasons, I just do not think that this is the solution to less violence on the streets. Because I don't like living in a fear that I could lose my life when I see blue and red.
At least in that particular thing about like raising the punishment, I just feel like that separation from the people and the police is, if you keep broadening it, keep putting them up on a pedestal.
And this power.
Like I just don't think that that's good for society. I think it's better, one thing that always warms my heart is when you're watching, or it's on Instagram or whatever it is, those videos with the police hooping, in the street, that's what it's supposed to, it's the community based policing.
Yeah,
it's they're integrated in the community, so you don't have somebody from we're in Lamert Park right now, but have some police officer from Manhattan Beach or Beverly Hills who got stationed out here. It's just their only interaction is when they have to come here.
I want to look at.
It's not like
I want to look to the
if
police,
you know the community.
I want to look to the police how I look to my firefighters,
bro.
Because
nobody made a song called "F the Fire."
Yeah,
F the firefighters.
I want to look to my policemen and policewomen like I look to my firemen.
Or like you look to your people in the military.
Yeah.
It's I'm saying it's a difficult job. It is, but the reason why it doesn't garner the respect is because it has shown itself to be systematically corrupt.
Yeah.
And even when there are good cops, they end up being pushed to the side when they start airing out their grievances against. So it's it is respectful. We do respect the job, but we don't respect the system.
Yeah. And there's
you would think a police officer walks in and you start thinking about all the corruption versus when a military person comes in with a uniform. Thank you for your service. Yeah. It should be thank you for your service.
Yeah. So there's more information. If you want more of our opinions, to go back on.
Go back to the other podcasts.
First,
we got a bunch of episodes.
The first 3 episodes, but especially the first and second episode.
Yeah.
All right. Next topic.
So the next topic is coronavirus. Pretty much it's just been 2020.
Yeah.
So the Biden approach is to accelerate a coordinated global approach to develop and distribute a vaccine, to create mobile testing sites and drive-through facilities, to create real-time dashboards that track COVID-19 data and supplies, and restore White House National Security Council Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense. So this was a section in the White House that Obama had that Trump tore down when he came in, based on budget cuts and stuff.
So now we needed more.
Yeah. So Biden,
he couldn't have known, but
he couldn't have known,
unless he did. We wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I'm saying. Oh yeah, I guess.
All right. So, anyways, Trump's side on this is he wants to develop and distribute a vaccine in 2020, which, as you guys know, most doctors say cannot happen anytime soon. Some people say that it's going to take another 6 months for this to fully be, or at least to be to the point where it's not threatening every other person who walks outside.
Yeah.
He wants to refill stockpiles and prepare for future pandemics. And he wants to make critical medicines and supplies for U.S. healthcare workers. So
I mean, it isn't so much about what they're gonna do. It's what have you done for me lately? And
that reminds me of Eddie Murphy Raw. What have you done for me lately, Eddie?
I mean,
what have you done for me lately?
Like, we've seen how he has responded, and while a lot of what I said with Joe Biden is like stuff that's already kind of been implemented, like the drive-through testing, and but the one thing is that we saw our president not act.
Yeah, and withhold information, and we see how it blew up. So do you really want? I mean, like, it's a question of.
It's more of a leadership thing.
Yeah.
He came. The way I see it is like he was like dragged to having more testing and all that type of stuff. It seemed like he was dragged kicking and screaming.
Biden is trying to kind of like fix his mistakes.
Oh, and the national mask mandate. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But Biden wants a national mask mandate. Trump is against that.
Didn't wear a mask and then got the coronavirus.
Yeah, didn't wear a mask. Yeah. Still doesn't work. Yeah.
Still doesn't wear a mask afterwards, and then infected his entire, almost his entire country. All right, next topic.
Okay, so the next topic is one that definitely affects both of us as college-going students.
Morehouse?
UCB.
You know what it is.
Bruins.
Education.
Joe Biden's stance is to add more health professionals in K through 12 schools, increase the funding to support disabled students, establish universal pre-K, provide up to 2 years of tuition-free community college, and to provide complete or no tuition for public schools for families that make under $125,000. Adjust student loan repayment policies, and invest $18 billion in grants for HBCUs, tribal colleges, and universities of other minority-serving institutions.
Yeah. And Donald Trump's plan is to provide school choice to teach American exceptionalism. So this is the idea that America is great. America has always been great.
And even when it wasn't great, it was great enough to make it great again.
Yeah, so America's great. He has already signed legislation to provide more than $250 million a year to HBCUs. And he's pushed for schools to reopen amid coronavirus. Oh, so he's pushed for schools to reopen even during the pandemic. So
as we've
seen, and we've seen what results of that. And some schools have been able to handle it a little better. So personally, I feel like this is an example of how you may be blinded to something if you don't. Like we say, right? We're gonna continue to say this, right? We lean left, but we look right.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I hadn't looked right on this one, I would have missed that he has put in place some things to help, something that will benefit me, right?
HBCUs.
Now, it may not be that $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
Which will be split amongst various schools, but it is still money that they're looking to put into institutions that I go to.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a Morehouse man. Well,
becoming a Morehouse man.
Becoming a man of Morehouse. So I personally think that him investing the money into that it is beneficial to what I'm
definitely
doing. But
I mean, in terms of I guess talk about a little bit like the or below the schools or below the college level. Some of the things like school choice and sort of like making sure that those are equal, because it's like your foundations are everything.
Yeah.
So I do support having more support for those schools, especially the public schools in the underserved communities, as opposed to the charter schools that Trump supports for tax dollars.
Yeah,
whole bunch of different stuff.
So look at both sides.
Look at both sides.
All right, next topic.
Okay, so the next topic is one of extreme importance, as if all of these aren't extremely important. Immigration. So Biden's plan is to reinstate DACA, enforce independent oversight over ICE, help Central America develop security and economic programs, end family separation and reunite currently separated families from the border, create citizenship create a citizenship path for agricultural workers, and end for-profit detention centers.
Mr. Trump's, President Trump's point of view on this immigration thing is he oversaw a zero-tolerance policy that led to the separation of migrant families. He wants to prohibit companies from hiring immigrants for lower pay. He wants to crack down on cities and jurisdictions with so-called sanctuary policies. And he has excluded documented immigrants from welfare, healthcare, and or free college tuition, or plans to. People, you never know what someone's push or pull is to leave where they come from and to come here.
Yeah.
And like your point, if like you come here when you're younger, to the point like 3.
Yeah.
And you don't remember where you don't
know nothing about whatever country you came from, and for the United States to say, "Oh, you don't belong here,"
after you've been here for so long, or you can't do something after you've been in our education, so, like that.
It just seems kind of disingenuous. And my dad's an immigrant from Haiti, and it's like,
and Trump has outright said that Haiti is like.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want immigrants from Haiti. They do want immigrants from Sweden and Norway. And
what's the difference?
The melanin. I just think that immigrants are America. That's the American.
Yeah, that's America.
That's what it's supposed to be.
You come to America, you make.
Yeah, that's what it's here for. So
yourself great, I guess.
From my perspective, I just support a better path towards citizenship. Like. Not so much.
Do you think the American dream is real? that could be a different topic.
I mean...
Next episode. I hope you enjoyed our presentation today. We wanted to provide you with accurate information on both policies, both sides, Trump's side and Biden's side. We encourage you to go out and vote. We encourage you to get involved. If you want to learn more about the policies when it comes to taxes, gun laws, or healthcare, we also will provide information in there. We just didn't feel like it was necessary for us to talk about coming from the generation and what we got our perspective. However, those are things that are important in society, so you can find them in the link in our bio.
I mean, hey, tomorrow's a big day. And we just wanted to equip you guys. If you guys weren't planning on voting, we hope that this could have pushed you to go vote. And maybe because it's not coming from some news or, it's coming from your peers.
Your boys.
Holla at your boys.
Your friendly neighborhood New Knowledge podcast.
Yeah, we just, wanted to break it down for you guys a little bit. And for some of the things that might have not been clear, hey, this is the information age. Get your Googles on. And we hope that this could have inspired you or made you feel even more confident about your vote.
Yes. My name is Amiri.
My name is Christophe.
You have listened to an amazing episode.
Hey, an unscheduled episode
of the New Knowledge Podcast.